Back with another part on the Rabbit. I've started looking at the headlight connectors since the wires have just decided to break off. It's not nice, but the wire is connected again, so should have light, at least temporarily. As long as I don't touch it too much, it shouldn't break off again. As anybody with a brain would expect, the atrocity I made the first time just broke off immediately. I got it on now. You can't really see. I don't want to take it off again, but I stuck a chunk of number 14 ground, just solid copper in there, soldered it in, and then soldered this wire onto that so that there's actually a solid piece. And this headlight works again. It's a little bit of an abomination, but it should work. I'll give the lights another test and make sure they both come on and make sure high and low beams work. All of the rear running lights are actually working, surprisingly. Now I'll just set up the camera and see if the brake lights work. I don't seem to have any reverse lights, and one brake light is burnt out by the looks of it. I found the reverse switch on the top of the transmission, so I just hooked my meter up to it. We're going to see if it actually works. It does not work. I'm going to remove the switch and see if I can clean it out or see if it does anything when it's on the transmission, but first I need to clean off some of this crap, because I don't want all this junk falling inside the transmission when I take it out. Here's some degreaser stuff I got, so I'm going to pour some of this on there and then scrub it with a wire brush. That's clean and dry enough for me. There it comes. And I'll hook my meter up to it and see if it actually works. Okay, the meter's all hooked up. Let's see. Big surprise, it is broken. So I gotta order a new one of those. For $24, I have another one coming from Amazon. It should be here in about 5 days. Now I'm going to make sure the wiring actually works to the back by touching the wires together. Perfect. That means it's just the switch. I was just spinning all the bulbs around in their sockets, and I think everything's working now. I believe they were just making bad connections. So first I'm going to turn on the running lights of the vehicle, then I'm going to hit the brakes. Now that I think I have all the lights sorted out, I'm going to go around and test them all and see how many bulbs I need to go get from the store. This dual filament bulb has one of the filaments burnt out, so I'm going to need a new one of those. I've finally done it, the bane of my existence. All of the signal lights are now working in the car. But you can tell that one's on, that one's going, that one's going, and that one's going. That's with the hazards on. Then we run into a little bit of a problem with the signals. If I turn on left signal, the one that was giving me the most issues to begin with, it works fine. You can see that one flashing on the door. And this one goes faster now. The reason it's going faster is just because I changed the bulbs around, so there's a difference in resistance between them. If I wanted to solve that, I could just get all new bulbs, but I don't feel like spending that much. The reason I was having so many problems before is because this connector here has lost ground. So that's why it seemed like nothing was ever working and it was just being very random. So I just connected a jumper to check and it fixed everything. So I just needed to redo that connection. Right when I thought I solved all of the weirdness with the signals, I go in the house, come back, and now this bulb won't do anything except stay partially lit. Right now, all I have on is the running lights, so I don't even know why it's on. And then I'll show you what happens as soon as I turn on the signals or hazards. And now it works with the hazards. It was not working before. I guess I'll turn the hazards off and see if the signals work again. Well, there is a problem with the signals because they start flashing super quick, but the hazards are working. Not sure what the problem is now. As I suspected, I switched both bulbs from the right side to the left side, and the problem followed. So I think it's just an incompatible resistance between the bulbs, so it makes it flash like crazy. I did one more bulb swap by just swapping the two front ones and leaving the back ones how they just were, and now it seems to be working just fine with the signals. They're both at the exact same speed. So that's nice. There's one other problem I've just discovered, and that's with the running lights. So if I turn them on, this one works, but this one does not. I'm not getting any power there, so I'm going to have to trace out the other wire because I wouldn't be surprised if the connection is broken off. After resoldering the connector on this side, it seems to be working fine. Right now I have running lights and signals on. So if I turn the running lights off, signals will keep going. If I turn the running lights on, goes off, and it works. So that side is now good. Now this side seems to have developed a problem. Right now the running lights are on. When I turn the signals on, they just go at a rapid rate and don't work. Turning the hazards on makes nothing happen. So I think there is a wiring problem there as well. This side works again. I just cleaned all of the contacts, took the bulb out, put it in, and then also did some testing with my test lamp. It works, so it must have just been something not connecting well in there. I can now confidently say that all of the indicator lamps are working fine, and all of the running lights that have bulbs in them are working. Now I want to get an actual ignition working in this instead of a screwdriver. My plan for the new ignition was to actually use the old spot this one came from, but that's not going to happen. This whole cylinder is way too narrow to fit this big unit in there, and I really don't want to destroy this because one day I'd like to actually get a proper replacement internal cylinder. I guess probably calling the external part a cylinder was wrong. I think I'm just going to unplug these wires and then bring some jumpers out to this unit and tuck it underneath the dash somewhere so that somebody can't find it and that they can't just unplug this and jump it easily. Although, like I said in the previous video, I don't think anybody would be able to keep this running anyways who'd want to be stealing a car. And I don't think they'd want this car. I just finished building this monstrosity. The wires I decided to use were too big to fit under the screw terminals, so I just soldered them all on. I didn't have any spade terminals, so I made my own using pieces of sheet metal that came from the door of a Nissan X-Trail. They all fit. They're kind of disgusting looking. I haven't taped them up yet just to kind of show what they looked like. I just finished hooking everything up to the wiring harness here, so let's see if it does anything. This should turn the lights on, and then, yeah, that starts it. Now I just gotta find a spot to mount this thing. Before permanently installing this, I just wanted to make sure that no current was being drawn while I had the key in the off position. I also realized that you have to zero this before you start measuring DC amps. So the measurement in the last video was imprecise because of that. No key, 0 amps. Onto accessory, just under 2 amps. And then, yeah, when you try to fire it, it jumps up. So I was looking for a spot to install this. I opened the glove box and found a perfectly sized hole already. I just test fit it and it went right in there. So that's where it's going to go. Probably the first spot anybody would look to steal things. Obviously, when somebody was digging through the car the other day, they opened the glove box and that's where they found the screwdriver. But I don't want this just dangling around. There we go. Ignition is installed. That was smoky, but it's ready to go now. Take it for a quick spin and see how it goes. made it to Canadian Tire, the temperature stayed right around the middle the whole time, which is nice. And the fuel gauge works. It shows half a tank, and that would align to about how much I put in. Get some bulbs. Just got home, and it has a pretty decent coolant leak. I'm trying to see where it's coming from, but I can't really tell. There's only one concerning noise I heard, and I'm pretty sure that was the timing belt rubbing on the top of the timing cover. I'll just leave that off for now. The fuel coming from the tank looks good so far. Everything is all hose clamped now, so we shouldn't have any fuel lines going astray. They work pretty good for the Duramax hose clamps from the dollar store. Used them on the wrong engine, but I think that's close enough. I was just trying to tighten up the hose clamp for the bottom of the radiator and found these atrocities coming out of the alternator. I don't even want to know what is happening here. Just wires spliced onto each other. Oh, I don't even know what's happening there. I just ran some wires to the blower fan. I found it when I was taking this cover off of this whole section to look for something else. And it works when you apply power directly to it. So that means either the resistor here is broken, or the switch or fuse is blown. Something else before it doesn't work, but the main thing is that it works. I just made a quick model of a replacement fuel cap in Fusion 360. I based it off of this image, which seems like that's what the factory ones look like. I just tested the cap out on the car, and it was a little loose, so that worked out not too bad. I used a piece of rubber that I cut out of this rubber mat from under my flooring and made a seal. Now I just need to glue on this piece of rubber. Need another tube of glue to make sure it stays on well. It's not pretty, but it'll work. It's better than no cap. I also wish I would have printed this with a higher infill. I wasn't sure that this first iteration would work so well, so it's a little bit spongy because I didn't want to waste a bunch of material if it didn't work well. Now I want to get the original rims cleaned up enough to put back on the car. I started working on this one a little bit last night. Now they're all good. Just busted out the wheel painting cards again. I just got them set up in front of my heater so that they can actually cure a little bit. The garage is 8 degrees right now, so it's not that cold, but still kind of cold. I was just looking at the tires and giving them quick touch-ups while they were in front of my heater, and then I noticed this. Yeah, this tire is pretty bad. I don't think I trust that to drive on it at all. It's also one of the ones that's worn down pretty good. But yeah, happy I noticed that before I put it on the car and drove it. Nasty exhaust tip is off. Now I just gotta measure that piece and see if it'll interface with the muffler I have. I actually need to do an oil change on it, as I have not done one yet, so I just got some 1540 diesel oil. It was actually on sale, so that was nice. And a huge filter. Look at the size of this thing. Looks like it'd be some farm implement. That is large. Hopefully it's right. So I was trying to see online and I didn't really find anything conclusive in the short amount of time I looked, and this is what the Canadian Tire filter finder thing said it was, so yeah. And then this, I couldn't find just a straight connector piece, so I had to get an adapter. And then I'm going to try to flare this end out using a hitch ball. Here's what I have. Maybe I'll be able to make this work. So I think I'm going to do a new idea and just cut a couple notches in this with my angle grinder and then force it inside. Here's the atrocious solution I came up with. I just cut down this a lot, tried to notch out some here. This was originally because I was trying to fit it on the inside, but I realized that wouldn't work. And then this piece is just what I cut off, and this is the original exhaust pipe here, so it fits in fine. So I'll be able to clamp that on. And this, yeah. it's on. Now I just need to clamp this piece. Here was my solution to cover up the holes. I just cut a piece of this exhaust that I had from the piece I cut off and wrapped it around. Won't be the best seal, but it's better than nothing. And right now I have nothing. Maybe I'll fix it one day. The muffler's on. It's a little bit lower than I was expecting, and it's even kind of hitting the floor in that corner. So I probably should have just pulled it closer to the wheel, but I think it's fine for the time being. And the hanger's on the wrong side because I should have got it there. But again, I was worried about it getting too close to the wheel. But I think this will work just for testing purposes and to see how much it quiets it down. But first, I want to change the oil because the oil in it looks nasty. Although diesel oil looks nasty like the first run after you change it. The new oil filter is somewhat bigger than the old one, but you can see there I've spun it just close to being on, and the gasket makes contact with the surface it should. At first I was worried that it'd be too big. You can see when I screw it on, it's in there, and it appears to be sealing. There it was, just like Old Faithful, the eternal fountain of filth. And there goes my drain plug into that. The good stuff. The turn line's broken. It is way quieter now. I'm just draining out the coolant so I can take the radiator out and see where the hole is in it. Because after driving it some more, I realized that there is a hole in the radiator because it's leaking from up within. You can kind of see right up by that wiring harness. It's coming from in there. So that would have to be the bottom of the radiator. I'm hoping it'll be small enough that I can just JB weld it so I don't have to buy a new one. Radiator's out, and I found an Audi center cap underneath here. It's kind of odd. I've got the radiator out and plugged the end. You'll see if there are any leaks. I'm going to spray some soapy water on here. And you can immediately see leaks coming from the edges. The other side looks better. I feel like that'll be way too much to fix. I just epoxied the whole side of the radiator. I got the dash out. It took me forever to find out how to get to the bulbs for the actual speedometer and clock, and then I looked, saw it was these three things on the top. They just shine down onto the face. So I pulled all three bulbs out and they're all burnt out. Another 2 bulbs, and the Canadian Tire receipts are just piling up. I've probably spent like $60 or $70 on bulbs at this point. There are a couple problems I just found out, and a good thing, I guess. So the bulbs that were in the cluster to begin with are actually fine. One of my test leads was broken. So I guess I can return the other one. So that's $20 saved. But that $20 might go to replacing the headlight switch. Because I've been trying to meter it out. My good meter died, so I didn't feel like changing the batteries and busted this one out. But yeah, metering it out and it's just not working right. Didn't even know there was a rheostat inside of here. But it turns out there is, and this is how you're supposed to adjust. This is your input power here, and this is your output to the gauge cluster. And you can see the resistance isn't really changing. Yeah, it's just doing weird stuff. With the resistance that low, there should be enough power getting passed through, but it's just not doing what it should be doing. Just gave the radiator another coat of epoxy on both sides. It was starting to cure well on this side, so I bought some more tubes from the dollar store and tried to just fully finish it off. Also got this at Canadian Tire, new shop vac for $60 instead of $150. The buyer wasn't satisfied. That was the reason of return, but it was brand new. I was just tracing the wires out for the dash lighting again with my good meter and found out that the wire was shorted somewhere to ground, which I was reading online. It seems like that's something that happened with these earlier ones because the dash lighting just wasn't fused for some reason. So I just bypassed that with an alligator clip, powered it up, and it was working for a minute, but then the rheostat just decided it was ready to die and shot all of its insides out after moving it around a bit, but it was kind of working. So I'll probably need to order a new one of these on Rock Auto. I was looking and they're like 20 bucks, so maybe I'll get one, but I really don't care about the adjustment like I previously said. So maybe I'll just cut out the part that's broken and make it so that it just works as an off-on switch, and then the dash light will come on when I turn the headlights on. Here's how I wired it. I just spliced a new wire into this whole situation and then cut off the old wire, capped it off just so it's not making contact with things it shouldn't, even though it's not doing anything, and soldered this one on. So now if I turn the lights on, that'll come on. Since I have the whole cluster out, maybe I'll see if I can get the odometer working, because it has been stuck at that number since I got the car. The speedometer actually works, so that's the only important thing. I don't really care too much about the odometer, but it'd be nice to have for keeping track of oil changes. The whole time I was moving the odometer around, I could hear something rattling around inside, and this little gear just came out. So that's probably the reason why our odometer isn't working. I'm going to have to call it quits on trying to fix the odometer. I've been trying to take off the speedometer needle, but it just won't budge. I sprayed some PB Blaster on the spindle, but it will not come free, and I really don't want to break it since the speedometer works and that's all I care about. I'm just going to carefully put everything back together. After being very careful with it the entire time, I was wiping the face off to remove a little bit of oil I got on it and snapped off the needle. That's back on now. Somehow I actually managed to glue it very well. When I first glued it, I couldn't even tell where the seam was where I broke it. But then I added some extra glue on top just to stop it from potentially breaking off. And now it's back together. I'm going to put all of this back and assemble it into the car so I don't risk breaking it again, because that was scary. The whole radiator side is now encased with epoxy. At what cost though? It probably would have been cheaper just to replace the whole thing in the long run. This was like 15 or 20 bucks worth of epoxy. I was trying to remove this nastiness from the steering wheel center cover thing outside, and I was having a real hard time getting it off. I think it might actually be mold, so I'm going to try to soak it in some vinegar overnight and see if it'll remove. Most of the moldy parts will fit in this container overnight because I don't want to fill the whole sink with vinegar. So I'll fill this up, let it sit, and try to scrub it tomorrow. Unfortunately, the vinegar soak didn't really do much for it. I tried scrubbing with a toothbrush after, but yeah, it didn't really take any of the crud off. It's been over a day since I did the initial epoxying in the radiator, and well over 12 hours since I did this last fill with it last night. So I think I'm about ready to put it back into the car. I picked up some of this stop leak stuff. I was really torn whether I should buy the liquid copper or liquid aluminum stuff that Rizlone sells. The aluminum cost $1 more, but it didn't say permanent on it, and I was reading online, and people were saying that this stuff seems to block a lot more, and like they were talking about it in a negative way, but that seemed positive for me because there's a lot that needs to be filled. Look at that liquid copper. Oh, it went a little crazy there. Said half a bottle, and ended up probably using like, I don't know, 3/4 or more. I just took it for a quick drive around, and it's running a little bit hotter than it was before. I think about 1 tick higher. I'm pretty sure when I was driving around the other day, it was at the previous tick. The arm's still moving coolant, so it didn't fully plug anything up, so that's good. Just got the last of the 3 broken wires down here soldered. That wasn't a very fun job at all. Now all the connections are done. Part 2. I forgot to put heat shrink tubing on the last one, so I had to take it apart and redo it. It's been nearly an hour since I put that stop leak stuff in and ran the car, and they've had no drips so far. You can't really see anything, but it's totally dry under here. As dry as you can get for an oily diesel. Made it to Costco to get some gas. The temperature has been staying relatively stable the whole time. The only bad thing is I think it plugged the heater core, because I'm not getting any heat inside anymore, so I'll have to look into that when I get home. I was just about to start trying to fix the blower fan, but now it works. All 3 speeds. I don't know if it's because I was just moving around all the connections or what, but it works now, so that's nice. I just need to vacuum out all this garbage and put that piece of cowling back on top. I just vacuumed out as much of the loose crud as I could, and I sprayed it down pretty good. So I'll give this a scrubbing and then put everything back together. Now that the blower fan is working and I've cleaned out this area for the most part, I want to see if I can get the windshield wipers working. Okay, so that's low and that's high. So now I've left it on high. That must be high. Yeah, nothing low, then comes on high. I got the whole assembly out of the car and apart, so here's just the motor on its own. I've hooked up the ground terminal, so we'll try again to the high speed and see what it does. Okay, that works. But this side works, so that's our slow speed. Now I just have to unseize the actual mechanism, because that must be the problem on why it wasn't working. I got this mounted in the vise now. I've sprayed a bit of the PV Blaster on the parts. I'll give it a little bit more on all the moving pieces. I started moving this side and got it freed up somewhat. And this one I haven't even touched. Oh, that one is bad. Give it some more, maybe in the back. Oh, there it goes. It's back together again. Now I'll just hook it up to the battery and see if it moves the mechanism. So there's the high speed. And there, oh, I guess it's backwards. That's the high speed. And that's... Are they the same? Or are they both going the same? I don't know. It's good enough for me. It can go back in now. I turned off and on the wiper motor from inside the car just to reset them back to their base spot. And now everything is installed. Make sure it works as it should. Well, that's not right. Are they trying to go the wrong way? When I had this whole thing apart, I spun where the actual mount was on the motor. So I need to turn that to get these back to where they should be. I'm going to try that again. I did it again. That was fun. Now they should actually be positioned properly. That looks pretty good. See if they stop where they should. Oh, stopped it too close. There we go. That looks good to me. Here's the gauge cluster outside at night. I think that actually looks pretty good. Very visible. Unfortunately, still no heat with the blower fan and the car at the temperature. So I think the heater core got plugged. I didn't clog the heater core. I can blow air through here just fine, and it'll come out that end. Can't really see, there's not any more fluid in there. When I put my finger on there and cover it, it builds up pressure, then I let off and it goes out, so I know it's flowing through fine. I feel like the problem lies somewhere else, maybe even on the output from where it comes through the block. Maybe a bunch of that copper shit got all plugged up in there. That was bad. Just took it for a drive and almost overheated it. So something with that stupid radiator block filler stuff I got is plugging something up, even after I try to just flush everything with air. So I guess that's the perfect place to end this video. In the next one, I will try to actually flush the system with water, see if I can get that out and see if I can get heat again. Because I know when I was driving the car earlier this week, when I didn't have a fan on it, I felt heat actually coming through. So the heater core and stuff, it was working at one point.